Hey there, and welcome back to the Sugar Treatment where we bake and heal together. My name is Anthony, aka the Baking Social Worker. I am so grateful to all of you out there that are watching. We just hit 200 subscribers, which is so crazy. I can't believe that we've done that. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel, turn on your notifications, like this video, and shoot me an email at thesugartreatment@gmail.com. Let me know what you would like us to talk about here on the show. Today we're gonna be baking a delicious, healthy banana bread recipe. It's so good, and I'm really excited to share the recipe with you.
It's my favorite.
When did you get here?
Sean let me in.
This is my friend Hannah.
Hi.
And colleague.
Yes. My name's Hannah, and I went to school with Anthony, and I'm also a social worker, and I'm a mental health therapist. So this topic that we're talking about today, although it's difficult, it's very near and dear to my heart, and I feel very passionate.
Yes, I'm actually really happy that Hannah's here today to help me with this topic because we haven't even introduced it yet. That's probably how scared we are to talk about this, right?
It's in the title.
It's in the title. So today we're going to be talking about race, and specifically why racism is a white issue. So we're going to provide a little bit of context, we're going to give you some feedback, we're going to give you some resources, and most of all, we're going to give you a very healthy banana bread recipe that is very delicious, that is Hannah's favorite.
Everyone loves a good banana bread, except Sean.
Except Sean, yes. Yeah. So should we get started?
We should.
Let's get started. So
Spirit fingers!
I like the little shimmy with it. I'm really happy you're here today because she has a lot of really good information that she's gonna share. But first, let's get baking, right?
Let's do it.
Mix all your wet ingredients together. 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt, 4 eggs, 2/3 cup of maple syrup, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 6 mashed ripe bananas.
I'm really doing like the spatula.
It's a good spatula.
It's really good for baking.
It's like very ergonomically designed.
You must have a baking channel or something.
Yeah. Hannah, you have so graciously mixed up our wet ingredients. It should look a little bit like this, real watery actually. Now we're gonna mix our dry ingredients in, starting with our flour, which we have kind of a lot of flour. It's 3.5 cups of whole wheat pastry flour,
right,
which is very specific kind of flour because it has a higher protein content. Did you know that?
I didn't.
I read up on my pastry flour today.
Full of facts.
Now add 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt.
Now we've got our dry ingredients and our wet ingredients. So what do you think we have to do now?
Pour the dry into the wet.
Yes.
Right?
Precisely. You know, we're gonna dive into some pretty tough questions here. How do you feel about talking about this today? Like, what were your thoughts when I was like, hey, Hannah, come onto my show and talk about racism?
Well, I was excited because difficult conversations tend to excite me, but it can be uncomfortable, and I'm not going to not acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I love Brene Brown, and she said something recently that was like, I'm not here to be right, I'm here to get it right. And I feel like that's kind of what we're doing here today.
I love that. We have 2/3 cup of melted butter.
Right.
And this is unsalted butter because we already added the salt to the recipe.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
How's that butter?
It looks so good.
Okay, because we're making 2 loaves, we're gonna split this into 2 because we're gonna mix in 1 with chocolate chips,
right,
and then the other with walnuts.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and do that. So we've got walnut and chocolate chip. We're also gonna top both of them with some pumpkin seeds.
Yes.
Add a little texture, a little bit of goodness, and a little bit of sophistication, if I might say.
I know.
Right? Okay, they need to bake at 350 for 50 minutes. So we're just gonna pop them in on the middle shelf. And then, are you ready to talk about our topic?
I am.
Again, we have skirted the issue for long enough. Let's get started on the topic. You know, I talked about doing this episode with a lot of folks and got some counsel, and people are like, wait, you're not gonna have like a Black person on your episode to talk about this?
Right.
And you know, the truth is, like, I went back and forth on it, and like, I feel like we have, our Black family and friends have done their part.
Yes, and they're still doing it. They're still doing it. I'm learning from them.
Yes, they're still they've done their part, and now it's up to us to talk to take ownership of this issue and to talk about it with our family and friends who are not Black.
Well, I don't know if it's fully take ownership, but to do it alongside of them.
Yeah, no,
right?
that's a good
So
qualifier.
it's like,
yeah.
it's with them, and if they need us, if they need to take a step back, like we can help fill that gap.
First question that we want to answer is, why is racism a white issue?
Yeah.
And really, like, this all stems back to, you know, this idea that white folks for generations, for centuries, have been colonizing the world. And, you know, they've been exploiting people of color for centuries.
Right.
And so this is something that's not just an American thing, right?
Right.
It's worldwide when we talk about white colonialism. But here in America, you know, we have a unique sort of relationship with race. And that's because, you know, Black folks were brought over here from Africa and they were enslaved. And our economy and our country was built on the backs of these slaves. There's a lot of confusion, and I think that maybe there's some folks out there that think that we've kind of overcome race.
Like we're in a post-racism world because we've had a Black president, or because there's no longer slavery in the form that it was back then.
But that's not true. We know that that's not true, right? And I mean, the one thing that's happened recently that has made that so clear is the death of George Floyd.
Yes. And it's not just police brutality.
No.
It's in our school system. It's in our criminal justice system. So it's everywhere. And so when we look at it, I think we need to look at it a little wider, like with a wide lens.
What we're basically saying is, like, we're the ones that started this issue. We're the ones that started the problem. And so it's incumbent upon us to come up with a solution.
Right. And also just saying, like, not literally us, but people that look like us, and people who came before us that look like us. Yeah.
So then I guess that moves into kind of our next segment, which is, why is it so hard?
Well, I think just even the title of the video, like why racism is a white issue, is
Probably a bit provocative.
It's provocative, and it's going to make people feel uncomfortable because and it's not supposed to be like a blame game. Like, this is a white problem, now fix it. And but it creates this discomfort, and this is like a social work term, like white fragility. There's a whole book on it, but it's like, it's talking about how the discomfort around race can actually silence people and make people not want to talk about it. And we can't really do that anymore. Like, we have to have these conversations, even though it's hard, but I'm not going to stop having them because I'm worried I'm going to say the wrong thing, or I'm worried I'm going to offend somebody. Like, if I offend somebody, I want to learn, like, what did I do that was offensive, and how can I grow? It's that concept that we talked about a lot in grad school, about unlearning and relearning.
Because I think that can be kind of a confusing term for folks.
I mean, we live in a society, and there are societal norms that we are kind of indirectly exposed to and taught. There's these like embedded pockets of like implicit bias that we learn as Americans. And so I think part of unlearning is unlearning the stereotypes that we know from media, even family members, TV shows. Like, I would say relearning American history.
Yeah, that was going to be another one I was going to move to, is like, there's so much that we've probably sort of been indoctrinated with in the American public school system, or whatever like education system you grew up in. I know that there's so much that has been left out of those stories, and that's why it's so important to listen to Black voices today, and to really kind of to set aside what you've learned and open your mind and heart to maybe a different telling of the story.
I just want to encourage all your viewers that even though it's uncomfortable, I get it. And that's okay, and we can move past it. And the more you have these conversations, the less uncomfortable it will feel. Yeah.
And I mean, like, the feelings you have around this topic really are not your fault. Like, this is embedded into us, okay? This is like a part of us. And so it's not your fault, but like, it's your responsibility to move on and to like take different action moving forward.
And the therapist in me is saying, your feelings are trying to tell you something. The reason why you're feeling this way is it's your body telling you something. So do something with that feeling. What are you going to do with the discomfort? What are you going to do with the fear?
It just kind of occurred to me that I wanted to kind of get I'm interested in your thoughts about this. When I bring up this issue or try to engage on this topic, it always kind of turns to like, well, but I've been marginalized too. Like, but I have felt, you know, some level of discrimination or prejudice. And so like, I'm wondering how, like, what are your thoughts on that? And like, how do you sort of like, how do you navigate that?
It's hard, and I feel like those people are trying to come from a good place. So and we can talk about that a little bit later, but I feel like it's having compassion and being really validating, and also being like, it's really not about you in this moment. And if you have felt that way, then I hope that you would be able to understand why there's so much outrage and outcry from the Black community, because they're experiencing pain. And so if you have your own lived experience of pain and prejudice and discrimination, like, why not use that as a source of empathy versus a source of like guarded? Like, this is not the oppression Olympics.
Yeah. It's almost like, well, I've suffered, so like you should be able to overcome it too.
Right.
Or you should be able to live with the consequences of that suffering too. When in fact, like, you know, that narrative really only serves to kind of turn us, you know, on one another, as opposed to like like turning our attention to the systems that are actually creating the circumstances of suffering.
Yes.
Right? Which is like those systemic issues that we talk about, whether it's police or criminal justice or, you know, the housing system or healthcare.
I just wanted to say something. Can I say another thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to talk about using shame, like, because some people might feel shame or guilt around this, like how we talked about, but not using shame as a tool to like try to get other people to do the work.
So give an example, because I feel like I've seen a lot of like memes and stuff that go around and try to like shame. Can you just give an example of what that would look like?
If you're not doing this, then you're a bad person. Or if you're not like donating, or if you're not looking at your own white privilege, then you're
racist.
Then you're racist.
Yeah.
Or you should feel like bad about yourself because of what you've done, how you're not committed to change, or whatever. I mean, that's not that great of an example, but I mean, if you want to know more about shame, just look at Brene Brown. Another plug, because I love her.
We're gonna have to get Brene on the show.
Yeah, I think she's gonna be on the next episode. I'm pretty sure.
Brene, if you're listening, you're welcome to come on the Sugar Treatment anytime. I think it's also important to say that there are very overt racists, and we don't even have to name them for you to know who I'm talking about.
Right.
And those kinds of people should be called out, and it should be very clear that those actions are not appropriate, and because you know, racist actions by powerful people have a really dramatic impact. I guess I just want to be very clear that like there are racists that need to be called out, and then there's this, and then racism can also be a lot more sort of insidious, right? Like it sort of lies right below the surface, and that's kind of what we're talking about, where it's more accessible. Those folks are probably more accessible. We've got a better chance of being able to kind of turn the tide if we can invite those folks into the conversation, instead of saying, hey, if you don't do this, you're gonna be like this guy over here, who's the overt racist.
Right, and we're also not perfect. I'm also like rechecking and unlearning myself every day, and I feel like I've been doing this for a couple years now, just based on our degree and what we've learned. And so I think the other thing too is like saying you're not a racist. Okay, like I believe you, but like when you have these implicit bias, being able to name them and say like, oh, okay, there was that implicit bias that I indirectly learned from my childhood, and I'm here to recognize it, name it, and like do something about it.
Yeah. What do you think?
It's so heavy.
It's so heavy, right?
Yeah.
I know, we gotta get back to baking.
I know. I feel like I wish we could do this forever.
I think we've really gotten some good information out there. Again, we're going to put a lot of really helpful resources in the description of the video, because we cannot cover this topic. You know, we really can't do this topic justice in the 10-15 minutes that we have here, but we're trying, and we hope that this has been somewhat helpful to you.
Yes, I hope so.
So good. Oh my gosh, look at this. So fancy.
Yours looks better than mine.
Yeah, yours is a little small, but whatever. We did it.
We did it, yes.
Look at these beautiful loaves.
They look so good.
I think mine turned out a little bit better than yours. This is Hannah's. This is mine. What do you think?
I'm well aware that yours is a little bit more risen.
It's risen.
Risen.
It has risen. Comment below if you like Anthony's loaf. Or comment below if you like Hannah's loaf. We would love to hear from you. And what else?
Well, we wanted to thank the Black Lives Matter movement.
Absolutely.
You're going to share down below some organizations that people can donate to.
Yes. Among which are Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And
ACLU.
ACLU. Others that have been leading the charge, and really just organizations that have been telling us, you know, what it is that we need to hear on this topic. So we thank you. We appreciate you. And we're going to keep fighting with you.
Well, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. And you can email thesugartreatment@gmail.com if you have any questions for Anthony.
You're hired. Welcome to YouTube.
I watch a lot of YouTube. Here.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Cheers.
Cheers to you. Oh my gosh. The walnuts are so well distributed. All right, well, thank you for being here. We hope you enjoy this recipe. It's delicious. Make sure that you comment below and let us know how yours turned out. And always remember to keep
Keep it sweet.